Hello, Rebecca here, and I am very happy and excited to be sharing with you something I kind of got the download, the inner guidance to share on, which is a topic I definitely have not shared on yet. And yeah, but and yet it's something that's been like a real core part of my life over the past 3 years since becoming a parent. I want to be clear, I'm definitely not giving advice on being a parent. I am definitely learning every day about that. But what I have been doing for many, many decades is learning about the sacred and spiritual practice. And I've really made it my life's mission to work out how we can weave the sacred back into the everyday. And what I've actually discovered since becoming a mum, and it's kind of been like through default, is the opportunity. And this isn't just about being a parent here, it's just, I know that many of us who are parents, particularly of toddlers, are just like, oh my gosh, especially if you're a working parent like me, it just means you're more busy, and you have less time for yourself. So everything I'm saying today, it's not to exclude anyone who's not a parent. And I think that what I share will actually resonate with anyone who has a busy life, which is pretty much all of us. But what I am excited about actually is because I think often, and my particularly creative mentors said to me, like, when you have a problem, you can come up with a very creative solution, and that creative solution is likely going to be even more creative than if you didn't have that kind of like that limitation. And I've always felt that. And the biggest thing that I've found since becoming a parent, first of all, 3 years ago, I became a mum, and pretty much, well, literally overnight, my morning practice stopped. It wasn't, I was still showing up to my spiritual practice because, I'm literally devoting my life to this. And that's no judgment for anyone who doesn't show up to spiritual practice, particularly if you're crazy busy as a parent or as a carer, or just responsibilities in your life. No judgment here. And so I was still showing up to my practice, but my morning practice, which I'd done for over a decade, went out the window. And I know everyone has different experiences, but for me, my son he's not a very good sleeper, and he is a very early riser. And I know I could probably set my alarm for 4 a.m., but I also know how important sleep is for me. So my morning practice went out the window. And at first, I felt really frustrated about that I couldn't quite get into my daily rhythm, because I had really discovered how, when you start your day with meditation, it really did like improve my day when I did that. So that was how I was living my life. But I knew it had to change because I had no choice about it. And especially in those first couple of years, I'm just getting out of it, but now I'm about to do it all over again. And oh gosh, I'm really not looking forward to, the baby alarm waking me up all through the night. And I'm grateful for the experience as well, but it really affects my nervous system. And so anyway, I had to find creative solutions. And, I had this moment where, and I'm going to share a couple of stories and a couple of tools that I've used to, I still am showing up to my 10-minute meditation, which I've done without fail. I just have to do it at a different point in my day. But what I really wanted to share is ways that I've found to weave the sacred into my normal life with my child. But you don't have to have a child do it. It's just that's been my challenge. And so that's what I wanted to share. So I'm not sharing on how to be a good parent, because I'm working that out myself. And I don't think, maybe we never work that out, but I am sharing on ways we can weave the sacred into the everyday a little bit more. And some of the examples I'm using are through challenges that I've found of being a mom, a working mom. So that is what I'm sharing today. Okay, cool. The biggest lesson that I've learned is, and I couldn't really see this before, but I began to see how compartmentalized, even me who had, like, I've been devoted my life to like living a soul-led life and doing my best to try and like bring the sacred into every part of it. And obviously that doesn't mean you're all holy or anything like that, but I'd really devoted my life to it and devoted my life to like aligning my life to my soul and all of that. But what I hadn't realized is how compartmentalized my life still was. It had changed a lot from before, but still it was compartmentalized. And I saw how I would like go and do spiritual practice and then step back into my life and then go and get grounded in nature and step back into my life. So there was still this separation that existed of like, going and being spiritual and then going into the everyday and going into nature and going into the everyday. And what being a mum and a working mum has the lesson and the teaching, and one of the many ones, but the biggest one when it comes to the sacred is finding ways to make it not compartmentalized but rather woven in. And I think that is what my son has taught me more than anything. And so I want to give you a couple of examples and how I've kind of like embraced what was really frustrating for me as like doorways to be like, oh, how can I bring the sacred here? How can I welcome the sacred here in this moment where I feel like it's just not, like I'd much prefer to go off and meditate, how can I bring the sacred here and weave it here? And and it's actually really shifted my mission in I keep on saying this phrase, weaving the sacred back in, weaving the sacred back in. And that really did come, it was in that first year of having my son, and it was also the first year of COVID as well. And I didn't quite understand it. And so I'm kind of like seeing the thread now. So I want to give you a couple of examples of how I managed to figure out what weaving the sacred back in actually meant. And yeah, gosh, especially I'm about to embark on the newborn phase, like at the end of the year or beginning of next year again. So yeah, so the first one, which I just love this, was, those nights, this is when you've got a newborn or any kind of, like a sick child or just a child that needs comfort. You're spending these hours rocking and nursing and, back and forth and back and forth and, and you're so exhausted. And I know other mums have said this, and maybe dads or parents in general or carers. I kept on catching myself like just in the shops without my baby even, just like rocking back and forth, which is, you're just so used to all you're doing is rocking back and forth. And what I began doing when I was rocking my son was I was like, oh, what if I was being rocked by the Great Mother now? And so I imagined myself like rocking him and nursing him. And then I called upon the Great Mother, who to me is like the goddess. But you could call it like, Gaia or God if you want, or the sacred, your ancestors, your grandmothers, whatever it is. And I started imagining me as her child, like her cradling me, nourishing me, calming me. Because I think when you have a screaming baby as well, it's like your nervous system, my nervous system was shot. And so that was something that felt like it soothed me, as I was spending these hours and hours and hours just doing this motion. And yeah, that really shifted me. So I was kind of like, oh no, I can be held in this as well. And on a similar note, I began, because I normally, one of my biggest spiritual practices is, as many of you will know, it's intuitive nature walking. So I walk in nature and I let the earth, the spirit of the land move me. And then I would be riding as I would do that. And I it was hard to spend time away from my son. And every now and then I would go for a walk on my own. But often he would be with me. And so what I would do is I would walk to the Chalicewell Garden here, actually, in Glastonbury, but it could be anywhere. Like if I was in London, I would have walked to Regent's Park, my favorite place there. And what I started imagining, because I think particularly I don't know if postpartum, it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm definitely not who I was, and I'm definitely not, I don't even know who I am. I'm definitely not that person I will be one day yet. And I think this is true. This is actually a practice I did myself when I was going through a lot of change, when I was changing careers, about like 12 years ago, 15 years ago. And so I imagine as I was walking him, whether it was pushing a pram or having him strapped to me, I imagined every step I was taking was me walking towards who I was becoming. And this concept of living the question, so whatever question I was living, whether it's like, what kind of mum do I want to be? Or what is the next book? Or, where is home? Any of these big questions that we would normally meditate on to receive an answer on. I started imagining it was like every step I was taking, I was being directed from within and stepping toward, an answer to a question, without it having to be like a definite answer, if you know what I mean. It wasn't like I'm going to find the answer today, but that was a really, really great practice. And so it was like, and yeah, I think it really helped me to like properly like embody what I was being called towards. And I think this is a really, really powerful thing to do. The more we can embody something, the less it's going to be up here in the ethers, and more it's going to be like in the physical, because we are souls having a human experience. My teachers taught me that all of the creative ideas and intuition in the world are pointless unless you act on them. And so I love walking meditations for that reason. So that was another thing that I did. Another thing that was amazing actually was, so for many of you who've been to my workshops before, or if you've been following my work for a while, you'll know that chanting has been a big tool for me. It's been a practice that I've trained in for many years. It's also a practice that well before that, just I found so nourishing. It's definitely something that's helped me find my voice and share my voice, and also clear the channel to hear my intuition and speak my intuition. So it's definitely not about like sounding good when you sing, but I also know that singing is a gateway to the soul. So when we sing, our heart opens and our soul's voice is able to come through. And I think one of the most amazing things about having a child, and particularly a baby, is that you can sing to them. It's like it's like a normal thing to sing, whereas I think as an adult, it's like we should sing more, but it's people look at you a bit funny if you're walking down the street singing. Whereas if you've got a child and you're walking down the street singing, all of a sudden they're like, oh, they're doing that for the child. And so the most amazing thing that I found, so my husband and I started like coming up with chants of my son's name, and then we would, there was this there's this one song that my husband kept on singing to him, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing, because we were coming up with chants, and I was thinking, he is a musical genius. And then like about 6 months later, I heard the song, which is Spirit Bird by Xavier Rudd, which is one of my favorite songs, because I was saying, this is so familiar, but it's like, I just know this tune. Wow. It was actually to that melody. And so now we play that song and sing it to my son. Yeah, and what we also found is everyone who came to the house to visit, if we would sing, they would sing too. It was like this invitation to sing because there was a child. I'm doing it for the child. But that was a very, very interesting invitation. And yeah, so bringing singing into it being like a normal thing. And I think with children in particular, you can, it's a good excuse. The next one was a really interesting one, and this actually came through me being triggered. I had just started work and I was going home to breastfeed my son because I'm very grateful my office was close by, but I also run my business and I definitely hadn't set up my business to be able to run without me. So it was challenging to, like, I didn't have much of a maternity. I'm hoping to have more of a maternity this time. Basically just had 4 weeks. And so in those weeks after, my mother-in-law was visiting, bless her, and she was just like helping us with him, and we had someone who we were trialing to be our support because we do live away from family. And I'd get home, I'd miss him during the day, and I'd be expressing during the day, and just struggling with that separation because it was still part of my body. And anyway, so I'd get home and everyone would be like around him and I would just want to get to him. And I remember like saying to my husband, I'm like, I just want my baby, like everyone's here but I need time with him. And I told him, he's like, well, he's your baby, go grab him. And I was like, oh yeah, I can do that. So I did that. And I'm like, I'm taking my son for a bath. That's what I'm doing. And I kind of did it like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. And it started what has like continued pretty much every single night since, where him and I have a little bath together. It's like a proper bath ritual. And it wasn't like I wasn't bathing him before, but it was the thing that him and I did together. And now that ritual's changed a lot over the 3 years. At first, like when he was just so tiny, it was like this witnessing exercise we would do together, which I'd done in workshops before, but where you'd just like gaze into each other's eyes and you'd see the soul who had arrived. And oh my gosh, it was so, so precious. And I would like sing songs to him as I like glided him in the water. It was so beautiful. Now he wants every toy in the bath, and kind of like it is like he's like diving on top of me, and it's not as peaceful as it was back then, but it's fun. Our like what I splurge on, and we began this in COVID, was bath bombs. Like from Lush, or we've got a local woman who makes them as well. And then I make like herbal pouches, and each night it's like an exciting new thing that we do, and we create what we're going to put in the bath. And so that's become the most amazing ritual. And like I loved baths myself, but I hadn't seen it as this ritual that you do. And I think this is the other thing that I'm really, really getting. I'd been big on like discipline when it came to spiritual practice, not from that place of like you have to do it, like, or you're naughty, but from the place of like I know that the more you show up, it's like a muscle that you're working out, the stronger it gets. And then just recently, and maybe everyone knows this and I just didn't know this, but we realized, we were having a conversation with my friend and teammate Amy Firth and my husband Craig, where we looked at the word spiritual and we're like, oh my gosh, ritual is right in the center of spiritual. And yeah, and so it is that like we really strengthen our connection with the sacred when we do things with ritual, with repetition. And I think in our modern world, particularly those of us who maybe there have been a severing in our ancestral wisdom, it's that ritual, that repetition of the sacred connection that we crave. And so, yeah, these rituals don't have to be these special things. You can create your own rituals. And I think this is also an opportunity, not just being a parent. I mean, it's like having a family of your own, but you don't have to have kids to do that. Like you and your husband, or you and your friend, or you and your mom can create your own rituals if you feel like they don't exist, or you can take the rituals that you want to take on, and then create your own for the others. So another one, now most of my meditations have always been quite, I've not been like a traditional like mindfulness meditation person. I've been definitely a rest in the sacred type meditation, where it's like you're kind of entering into this state of like merging with the sacred or being held by the sacred. So similar to what I said at the beginning with like falling into the arms of the Great Mother. So my practice had always lent itself to that, but I'd never really gotten into yoga nidra and like deep replenishment meditations before, even though my meditations kind of touched in that area naturally. And so what I realized is, you know, when you're just so tired from lack of sleep, and you're working long hours, and, you know, you just don't have any time for yourself, I think one of the hardest bits is like nap time. Like, how are you going to make the most of nap time? Because you're kind of like, you want to do something for you, or do you sleep, or what do you do? And so that's when I really upped my yoga nidra and replenishment meditation. So when my son would fall asleep like during the day, and you know, you don't know if they're going to be down for half an hour, 2 hours or whatever, both my husband and I would go separate ways, and we'd both go into like a yoga nidra meditation, like just a guided one, and that felt like it replenished me more than trying to sleep. I'm not a good day sleeper. I really struggle with sleeping during the day, even if I'm exhausted, and so that was amazing. And then it inspired actually quite a few of the meditations I started creating for my membership, The Sanctuary. We did a deep rest and replenishment meditation, for example, and then an AM PM meditation. And so the PM one is like you can do it as you're falling asleep at night. So yeah, Cecilia said Nidra got me through the sleep debt of 3 babies. Oh my gosh, it's so amazing. Yeah, so replenishment meditations while they're napping is amazing, or even while you're drifting off to sleep. Like, don't feel like lay down in your meditation. Don't feel like you have to like sit there on a pillow or anything like that. Just do what you need, you know? I think, and I know one of the biggest things that I found the moment I became a mum was like all of a sudden I was like so deeply attached to the world. And I didn't realize I wasn't before. And, you know, I think in a lot of spiritual circles, there's like the teaching of non-attachment, but I don't know if it's possible being a parent and being non-attached. Yeah, not possible for me right now. I feel like I care way much more about what happens to the people I love in the world and all of that, which I don't think that's a bad thing. You know, I think sometimes attachment can lead to bypassing, or not being attached, I should say, non-attachment. So yeah, I'm talking about it in the spiritual sense, not in the, you know, mother-child attachment sense. And then 2 other things that are kind of linked that we do a lot as well are, so I'd always done intuitive nature walking, which I touched on earlier, where you connect with the energy of nature around you and you let it move you. So I started doing that with my son, first of all, when he was in a pram. So I was basically the one leading us, but he might like point to where he wants to go. And now he doesn't walk, he runs. And so we'll go to like a enclosed space and I'll let him lead us where we want to go. And we'll go up to a tree or up to a flower or whatever. And then we'll also weave in like acknowledging the consciousness of the plants and the, you know, the flowers and the trees and all of that. As we're doing it. And so that's almost like a teaching of like seeing the sacred in all things, which of course is a spiritual practice in itself. And, you know, sometimes he'll rip a flower, you know, and I'll be like, did you ask the flower? Or, you know, say sorry to the flower. And so, you know, it's not as dreamy as if I was just doing it myself, but it's also a really, really cool practice. And we'll it once a week, if we do go on our walks, we'll also do our weekly altar. We've got a shelf in like the lower shelf of a bookshelf at the bottom of our stairs, where we create our family altar for the week, and that tends to be from like fallen stuff in nature. So it might be like my son loves like acorns and conkers and things like that, or we might like often we'll go into like a secondhand store and pick something, that kind of thing, and then kind of create the altar. And he's still quite young, but we're saying like what we want to our intentions for the week, or how we're feeling, or what we want to feel, that kind of thing. So these are all just like simple ways that I found, which it's not like I didn't do these things before, but I feel like it's given me the challenge, the time challenge has given me the I guess the push to find ways to thread it in a little bit more. So yeah, and I mean, for me, if I'm really honest, like through a lot of my life, like 20s and particularly early 30s, I was like, I think I was scared to be a parent because ever since I was a young girl, I would talk to my mum saying, I came here for a reason, there's something I came here to do. And so my career and my calling was so strong within me that I didn't want anything to distract me from it. And I think I was scared of birth and becoming a parent for many different reasons, but particularly that. And yeah, I was worried that it'd affect my relationship. I was worried that it'd affect my work. And yet I now look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, how could it not just deepen it? And it's of course changed it. And I'm sure different things would have happened had I not chosen that path, and had I not that window opened up for me. But yeah, I can see now really becoming a parent has really invited me to more deeply embody my soul, and integrate it into my life. And I definitely am not able to show up for long bouts of spiritual practice. I miss like being able to go off for a weekend and just like commune with the sacred, and go to India on a pilgrimage, or all of those things. And I'm sure there will be a time when I'll be able to do that again. And yet I feel more woven here than before. So that's what I wanted to share today. And I think I also just wanted to reach out and I haven't spoken much on these things because I kind of struggle to talk through things when I'm going through them. I'm really mindful of like processing them first, and also like I've definitely been going through the past few years, like so many of us, just so many inner changes, like a real descent into the underworld. And I feel like I'm just coming back up and getting to know who I am now, who I've become. And it's not too different to who I was before, but I've struggled to find the words to wrap around it, and I want to find the right words so that they're helpful. And yeah, I definitely it definitely wasn't a talk on being a parent. It's about being a busy person and finding through the challenge, finding ways to weave the sacred into our everyday life. And I mean, there's so much more to say. Gosh, I'm discovering all the worlds of attachment and reparenting and oh my God, all of that, which, yeah, I am a student of for sure. But yeah, I hope this has been a little bit helpful. And yeah, I love you all. And yeah, and if you're not a parent, like I don't want this to be a, like this is just for parents thing, because it's not. Like what I like, all of this would have been so helpful for me just as a normal person who like, you know, has a separation from another being. You know, sometimes it's like having a little one just kind of needing you all the time. It's like yeah, it's an interesting period for sure. And yeah, and it's interesting as well. My son is now 3, and I feel like I'm just kind of coming out of it, and I'm about to go in it again, being 6 months pregnant now. But yeah, I feel grateful as well. So, aw, bless you. Oh, I love it. So there's a few people here I can see in the comments who aren't parents. That's amazing. I'm so glad. Ah, well, oh, Laura, she's preparing to become a mother of a newborn again. Yes, totally. Oh, yeah, I'm a bit nervous about the postpartum period for sure. Yeah, I have some um, trauma around sleep stuff, which is a whole nother thing. And I really struggled with the being woken up every 20 minutes, and yeah, my nervous system. It in the end, it definitely has resulted in deep healing that I don't think I would have been able to access without it. But it was been quite a journey, that's for sure. And yeah, I'm sure I'll write about it um, one time soon. I'm actually starting a podcast because I feel like I would like to be able to talk a little bit more about these experiences. And I think sometimes in social media it can, you know, there's not as much space for nuance. But yeah, call on your village to help. Yes. Yeah, and I think we're really discovering how important a village is, aren't we? When I had my son, we actually we just moved here to Glastonbury, so we didn't have a village, and so we've had to like very consciously create it. And obviously with COVID, our family wasn't able to visit, so they would have been our village. We had that all planned out. Them coming kind of like in one after the other, but Australia shut its borders, so we were here on our own. So we had to like pay for a village and kind of do it ourselves. And I know that many of us have that's reality. So, but I think that we can. Yeah, I think many of us are realizing the importance of it and creating it for ourselves now. Oh, well, thank you so much for being with me. I'm conscious that we're all busy, so I don't want to keep everyone for ages. I had tried to keep it at 20 minutes, but it's 30. But yeah. Anyway, I love you very much. Thank you so much for being here with me.